this video. I'm going to do a little video on the Motive Power Bleeder. Basically a speed bleeder for your brakes. I know it's been out there a while, pretty popular, but what it allows you to do is more of a one-person job. You don't need someone pumping the brakes and then constantly having to go in and refill the master cylinder over and over and over again, the reservoir, and keeping up with the fluid loss and making sure no air, of course, enters the line. So if you notice, I've got the carbon brakes. Doesn't matter. The only difference is, on these brakes, of course, you've got bleeders on both sides. So you've got to bleed the air out, the pistons on both sides of the calipers. And I've had both steel and carbon. I've had a 15 and 17 Z06. Calipers are pretty much the same, just different pads, rotors. A little difference in the calipers, of course, but for the most part, it's the same procedure. That's really all that matters. Any type of brakes you have more or less function the same way. So the way the system works is it's got a cap with just a basic little brass female male connector here. And this cap has got a couple different thickness washers. So they're little rubber washers, and that allows you to get a nice tight seal on the top of that master cylinder reservoir. And that's what you want, because you want to pump this thing up. I've got it right about 18 psi, but I think the directions tell you to pump it to 15 pounds of pressure. The main thing is you just want enough pressure to force the fluid down through the line and then out through the brake bleeders. And what it comes with, and this is nice, it comes with a little, this might be extra, I'm not sure, but a little reservoir, and it's very simple. It's got a stainless little, connector here where you can hang it, but I connected a nice rubber line here, which to me is pretty simple. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the camera up, and I've already pumped it and locked it, so we're at the right pressure. So what I want to do is just set my camera up here, and let me make sure I got a good angle at the brakes. Okay, that looks pretty good. So this isn't rocket science. I mean, what you want to do is just watch the fluid. So I'm able to hold the canister up with the tension, because this has really got a nice tight connection on there. Otherwise you can hang it, but you want to just essentially just release the pressure. You're going to turn left on the brake, the brake bleeder screw. So just go left with it, and you're going to see that fluid start building up in that can. And you can see it coming in if you watch from the top. And all that's doing is just taking that fresh fluid from that big pump, the canister up top, and then forcing it down through the master cylinder all through your ABS unit, through your lines, and then out to the brake caliper. I'm watching the pressure. It did go down a couple pounds, so I'm going to just keep checking that and letting more fluid out. I'm going to probably let that get to about, I'm not sure, maybe not quite halfway. It doesn't take much, honestly. The master or the ABS unit holds the most fluid, and of course the reservoir holds the most fluid, but as far as the lines, it's very, very minimal, the fluid that it holds. So you can see I've got some more fluid in there, and that's actually really dark. That's looking not too good. I haven't bled these brakes yet, so they're definitely needed. And I'm seeing my tank, with the Castrol SRF, which is the fluid that I prefer. It's already going down quite a bit. So I'm gonna pump that. I'm gonna get it back up to about 18 pounds. Okay, and I'm gonna lock it, and then I'm gonna do a little bit more on this inner one. All right. A little bit more. And what's nice is the line runs down into the fluid, so you don't have to worry about it sucking air up. That's what's really nice about it. Once you start bleeding this, it's going to, there's no chance, right? You look at that. I mean, you can see it filling up slowly, but there's no chance that it's going to get air in the system, which to me is kind of a dummy-proof system, which is very nice. And if I watch up top, when I bleed it, I can see the fluid from the tank, from that clear line, going right down. I mean, it's actually emptying right down into the reservoir. So I know that it's working for sure. And I'm getting there. I'm getting close to a half cup here. I like to sort of do it just in cycles. I'm sure you can probably just leave it cranked open. But I like to do it sort of the old-fashioned way. Just makes me feel better. I'm just used to it. But now you can see we're at a half. We're probably getting a little past a half now, which is really good. That means it's working. We're getting all that fluid out of there, all that bad fluid. And the rear lines are a little longer, so you want to bleed them just a bit more because they run down the length of the car. But the ABS unit in this car sits right in front of the engine, and be careful with brake fluid too. Don't get that on your paint, of course. Take the paint right off. But that's it. That's pretty simple, just to bleed one caliper. And what I was talking about is when I cranked it, you can see the fluid, just flowing right down, which is what you want. I mean, honestly, it's very simple. But as far as a review for this power bleeder, absolutely, man. I did bleed the brakes once on this car before because I had to replace the brake line. But having to tell someone to pump, hold it, all that deal, it's just so much easier just to own one of these, especially if you're going to own cars, right? You're going to have these cars. Just go ahead and bite the bullet. I think it was $100 for the total unit, which is not bad at all. And I can reuse this over and over and over again. But you can see your ABS unit sits right here in the front of the engine. So your lines come down from your reservoir into your ABS unit, and then they exit, and the driver's side shoots right across the K-member over to your passenger side brake. Your driver's side shoots over this K-member right here to your driver's side brake. And then, of course, they run down the car to the rear. I mean, again, it's not rocket science, just brake lines. The circuits on this thing are always, right rear, left front, and right front, left rear. That way, if you lose a circuit, you bust a brake line, you still got brakes that will brake you in a more straight fashion, right? Now, that being said, I have lost a brake line. I had my ProCharger belt break, and if you ever notice where they place the brake line across the K-member, it's right below that pulley, right below the crank pulley, which is not a great design. I have since altered that to improve that in case that belt breaks again. I won't have to worry about losing brakes at 150 to 70 miles an hour on a track somewhere. Because I'm going to tell you, when that brake line went, I was coming up on an exit, and I damn near had no brakes. I mean, it was just nothing. And that shocked me, because I thought if you lost a brake line, you still had enough brakes or decent brakes to stop you straight, and at least enough to feel safe. Well, that wasn't so. My brakes went right to the floor. It just was a very dangerous situation. I would have definitely totaled this car if somebody was right in front of me. So I would highly recommend, if you look at that accessory belt and crank pulley, especially if you ProCharge, something that has a higher chance of breaking a belt, maybe even the Magnuson, the Maggie, any of those PD blowers or Centuries, whatever, they all run the belt right off the front of that crank pulley, and that line runs right below that crank pulley, right across that K-member. I would absolutely alter that line and tuck it very close into that K-member. That's just my advice, so you don't lose brakes with a belt popping, because it happens. It happened to me, and it could have killed me. Absolutely. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a nice little review on the Motive power bleeder. Very, very simple. I recommend, again, the 2 parts to it. That way you don't pick up any air. You know, you can of course just crank the screw, bleed it into a bucket if you want. This is just something that's just kind of nice. It's got a nice, if you look down in there, it's got a tube that runs down into the fluid, and then it's got a vent here. So it's just a little bit nicer way, but you can fab that up yourself with anything. I mean, even a Coke bottle, you can run a line into it. So, and you can see it's holding pressure nicely. So that's good. That means it's got a good seal. In fact, the first thing you do with this, before you put your fluid in the reservoir, the pump, the Motive reservoir, is you attach this and you pump it to 15 pounds and just make sure that it holds pressure. And that means you've got the right rubber washer in there, and they give you different ones. So, all right, well, I mean, there shouldn't be any more really to it than that. I don't want to make this some drawn out video. Just straight to the point. If you have any questions about it, you know, of course, shoot me a question in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer. All right, more videos again coming. I'm taking the car to the dealer next. I'm getting steering rack reprogrammed. I've got some ECU issues, recognizing the steering rack, which is causing reduced engine power. But the car is running phenomenal. So as soon as I get that done, maybe in a week ish, I will have some GoPro videos of the car with some draggy times, hopefully. So we'll see how the car's performing. So like, subscribe, and you'll get some more content here soon. Thank you.